Picture Audrey Hepburn, not a specific film, not a specific scene, just her. The way she moved, the way she held a room without demanding it, the way she was simultaneously the softest and most unshakable person in any space she occupied. Nobody watched Audrey Hepburn and thought, she needs to be more confident. Nobody watched her and thought, she's too soft to be taken seriously. She was both things at once, completely, effortlessly, without apparent contradiction. Now, look at what feminine energy has become on social media. Soft life, never chase, don't have opinions that make him uncomfortable. Be the prize, but quietly. Receive, don't pursue. Flow, don't push. And somewhere in that aesthetic, something got lost. Because Audrey Hepburn was not soft in the way that content describes. She was warm, she was open, she was genuinely, deeply present, but she was never small. And that distinction between softness and smallness is what this entire video is about. Here's what most people miss. Feminine energy isn't a vibe. It isn't an aesthetic. It isn't a set of behaviors you perform to seem more appealing or more receptive or more aligned with some idea of what a woman should be. Real feminine energy, the kind that actually draws people in, the kind that Audrey had, the kind that Elle had underneath all the pink, is a quality of presence. And that fullness is what people call magnetic. The social media version of feminine energy has quietly become its opposite. It's become a manual for self-erasure dressed up as self-expression. And the women following it aren't becoming more magnetic. They're becoming more invisible to others and eventually to themselves. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most women who think they're embodying feminine energy are actually embodying one of two things. Fear. The fear of being too much, wanting too openly, being direct and having it used against them. Or performance. Doing the soft, receptive, effortlessly graceful version of themselves because they've been told that's what feminine looks like. And both of those things, fear and performance, produce the same result. A woman who is present in every room but somehow not quite there. Real feminine energy and real confidence don't conflict. They come from the same source. And that source isn't a strategy. It's self-knowledge. It's knowing who you are clearly enough that you don't need the room to confirm it. That's what Audrey had. That's what made her unforgettable. Not the dresses, not the grace. The fact that she seemed completely, quietly, without effort, to already know her own worth. The first thing most women get wrong, confusing softness with smallness. Softness is a quality of character. It's warmth, openness, the capacity to receive people without immediately evaluating or defending. It makes people feel safe. It makes conversations go deeper. It's one of the most genuinely magnetic qualities a person can possess, and it has absolutely nothing to do with shrinking. Smallness is a strategy. It's what happens when a woman has learned, usually early, usually from environments that punished her for being too much, that making herself easier to be around is the safest way to be accepted. Fewer opinions, less desire expressed openly, quieter wants, lower expectations. It looks like softness from the outside, but underneath it, the mechanism is completely different. Softness comes from security. Smallness comes from fear, and people feel that difference, even when they can't name it. A woman who is soft and grounded draws people in because being around her feels like relief, like you can finally exhale. A woman who is small and accommodating can produce the same surface impression, but something underneath feels slightly off, like you're not quite sure who you're talking to. Like she's editing herself in real time for your benefit. And edited people, however pleasant, are very hard to actually connect with. The shift isn't to become harder. It's to stop confusing the two. To ask yourself, in the moments when you're being accommodating, when you're softening your opinion or suppressing your want or making yourself easier to be around, whether that's coming from genuine warmth or from the fear of what happens if you stop. The second thing most women get wrong, thinking confidence means performing strength. Remember Elle Woods, walking into Harvard Law the first day, pink luggage, cosmopolitan law school essay, the whole room deciding in 30 seconds that she didn't belong there. And she knew they thought that. She felt it. And she didn't become someone else to prove them wrong. She didn't adopt the right clothes and the right tone and the right amount of seriousness. She stayed exactly herself and then proceeded to be the most prepared, most committed, most genuinely excellent person in the building. That's not masculine confidence. That's not performing strength. That's something much simpler and much harder. She didn't let other people's assessment of her become her assessment of herself. And that specific refusal is what real confidence actually is. Most women who are told to be more confident hear it as an instruction to ADD something, to be bigger, louder, more assertive, to take up more space in the way that men take up space. But real confidence almost never works by addition. It works by subtraction. You stop performing. You stop monitoring how you're landing. You stop recalibrating your personality based on who's in the room, and what's left, when all the performance falls away, is just you, which turns out to be enough, which was always enough. Stanford researchers studying authenticity and social perception found that women who presented themselves consistently across social contexts without significant adaptation to perceived expectations were rated as significantly more confident, more trustworthy, and more compelling than those who adjusted heavily to the room. The women who seemed most confident weren't the ones who performed at best. They were the ones who had stopped performing entirely. The third thing most women get wrong, treating feminine energy and confidence as a trade-off. This is the most damaging misconception. The idea that you can be warm or direct, receptive or boundaried, soft or strong, feminine or confident, as though these exist on a spectrum, and moving toward one means moving away from the other. They don't. And the women who are most genuinely magnetic, not the ones who perform softness, not the ones who perform strength, but the ones you leave a conversation with thinking, I want more of that, almost always have both. They're deeply warm and completely clear. They receive people with genuine openness and still know exactly what they will and won't accept. They're soft in how they speak and unshakable in what they believe. That combination isn't a balancing act. It's not something you calibrate or manage. It's what happens naturally when a woman stops trying to be the right version of feminine and starts being a specific, particular, fully formed version of herself, the one she actually is, not the one that's easiest for everyone else to be around. Go back to Audrey. What she had wasn't feminine energy in the social media sense. It wasn't a carefully maintained softness or a studied receptivity. It was presence. Complete, unedited, ungoverned presence. She brought herself, all of herself, into every room she entered. And that fullness, that refusal to be partial, is what people have been trying to describe ever since with words like grace and magnetism and feminine energy. It was never about being soft. It was about being whole. Here's what ties all three together. The reason most women get this wrong isn't a lack of information. It's the wrong question. How do I balance feminine energy with confidence assumes they're two separate things that need to be managed in relation to each other. They're not. They're both expressions of the same thing, knowing who you are and being willing to be that person without editing yourself for the room. Feminine energy, real feminine energy, not the content version, isn't softness as strategy. It isn't smallness dressed up as grace. It's the quality of a woman who is so genuinely present, so genuinely herself, that the people around her feel more real just from being near her. And confidence isn't louder or harder or more aggressive. It's the quiet certainty that who you actually are is worth bringing into the room. When those two things come from the same place, they don't conflict. They become the same thing. And the woman who has figured that out doesn't ask which one to be. She's too busy just being herself, which turns out to be exactly enough. So here's your challenge for this week. Pick one moment, just one, where you would normally shrink yourself. Maybe you lower your voice before asking for something. Maybe you apologize before you even speak. Maybe you make yourself smaller so someone else feels more comfortable. Don't change what you say. Change how you hold yourself when you say it. No performance, no armor, no act, just stay. That's it. One moment, one choice. Because confidence isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in the small decisions, the ones no one else notices, except you. Back to Audrey. People spent decades trying to figure out what made her so magnetic. Was it the elegance, the grace, the way she moved through a room like she already belonged there? But here's what they missed. Audrey Hepburn was not performing softness. She was not performing strength. She simply knew exactly who she was, and she never apologized for it. That's the combination. That's always been the combination. Feminine energy, confidence, not competing, not canceling each other out, coexisting, because they were never opposites to begin with. You don't have to choose between the two. You never did. And the women who figure that out, they're not the loudest in the room. They're the ones everyone remembers after they leave. If this hit different, share it with a woman who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.